Well, that's more like it. Am I right? The Bills felt like the Bills again. They take an inferior opponent and they beat the heck out of them. 45-17 on the road against the Jets. A game that kind of felt over in the second quarter. I remember texting my buddy in the second quarter, and I'll point to the moment in just a second, that this game, I think, is made. I think the Bills are made here. I think the Jets are pretty hopeless. And it was like 1/3 into the game. It was 10-0 Bills. And I can tell you the point at which it happened. The Bills had just come off their worst drive so far. It was like their third drive of the game. They had scored a touchdown on the first drive, kicked a field goal on the second drive. Then they got to the Jet side of the field, and Deion Dawkins took a holding penalty, I believe, on third down, and left the game for one play. And Tommy Doyle went in the left tackle, and the Jets just bull rushed him, and Allen got crushed for a sack, and the Bills ended up punting. And then the Jets got the ball back. They got a couple first downs, maybe a first down or two. They got to the Bills side of the field. They got to like the Bills 45-ish in that area, and they had a 4th and 1. And it looked like they were lined up to go for it. They took a delay of game penalty. Right then and there, texted my buddy, this is done. This is over. I know that the Jets ended up scoring 17 points, so technically it wasn't. But I mean, the game progressed to 38-3 in the third quarter, and the Jets got a couple garbage time touchdowns to make it 17. They used Joe Flacco. Somebody is still using Joe Flacco in 2021. The Jets were doing it last year. They're still doing it this year. Just blows my mind completely. What more can you complain about, really, for the Bills, though? I mean, the first possession of the game, 4 plays and a touchdown. 11 yards, 17 yards, 15 yards, 15 yards, touchdown. Matt Breida. Where were you for the Matt Breida game? Tweeted that on Sunday. This is the Matt Breida game. This is what we're going to remember. Unless he has a more memorable career, or at least rest of season with the Bills, this will be the Matt Breida game. He ends up with, I think, just 5 or 6 touches, but scores 2 touchdowns, the one rushing that I just mentioned, or the one receiving that I just mentioned. He added 1 rushing on his first carry of the game. He would later get 2 more carries in the fourth quarter and ended up fumbling 1. So that's unfortunate, because I know that Coach McDermott takes that pretty seriously. Devin Singletary also fumbled on a toss play or something, and it just bounced right back into his lap, fortunately. So I think that will certainly be a point of emphasis, holding on to the football. I know that McDermott is old school like that. I mean, no coach likes fumbling. Nobody likes fumbling, but the old school coaches seem to take it the most serious. A good example, this is reverting back to last year, but the Bills played the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, and Deontay Johnson is one of their best players. Okay? Maybe their only player that consistently gets open, that gets open the fastest within the route. He's a pretty good option for Ben Roethlisberger because of how quickly he can get open. Everything else is just like a deep pass to Claypool. They try deep shots to Claypool and reverses to Claypool and things like that. But Deontay Johnson is their guy that gets open, that they can hit for 5-yard slants and things like that. Whatever. So he's, like I said, he's their guy. He's kind of their go-to guy. But he was dropping passes against the Bills on Sunday Night Football last year. So what did Mike Tomlin do? Old school football coach? Benched him. I mean, I know you need these guys to be reliable, but if you start benching your best players because they can't catch the football or they're just going through things, like Jamar Chase, great example. Were the Bengals going to bench Jamar Chase because he couldn't catch the football in preseason or he had a couple bad drops early on in the year? Absolutely not. It's just such an old school way of thinking. Anyway, this has gone on way too long. I want to talk a little bit about the Bills, obviously about the Colts, the upcoming opponent, because, I mean, the Jets, R.I.P. Mike White. That was a fun thing for 2 weeks. The guy threw 4 interceptions. The Bills get 5 turnovers in from their secondary. Every starting member of the secondary forced a turnover. Johnson, Trey, Poyer, and Levi Wallace have interceptions. A fumble recovery by Micah Hyde late in the half to keep points from going up on the board. The Bills have done that a couple of times this year as well. This is the third time I can think of. They did it the previous week against Jacksonville. Carlos Hyde fumbled before the half. They did it against Miami the previous week before that. It's 3 weeks in a row. Miami had that snap that hit Mike Gesicki, and Micah Hyde recovered that one as well. So it's a nice trend. Maybe a little bit of luck involved there, but it's a nice trend. I'm not going to talk too much really about this Jets game anymore because the Bills were clearly the better team. They finally played like it. This is how I think most people anticipated that the Jacksonville game would go. The previous week, unfortunately, it did not. But this week, the starters are out there for basically 11 possessions. They score 6 touchdowns, 1 field goal. They basically have one bad possession. The one that they ended up punting on that I just alluded to earlier, where Allen took that sack. There was an interception late in the second half, but they're up 38-3 at that point. I don't even really remember it. And then Breida fumbled on the next possession. These are things you obviously don't want to become habits, but what can you really complain about, really? Stephon Diggs had his best game of the season, 8 for 162 and a touchdown, just abusing some of those corners. You like to see them exploit that matchup. The starting corner there for the Jets went down. I'm not sure he would have been able to cover Stephon Diggs anyway, but then they just start attacking his replacement like no other, just relentlessly. And, they're throwing 40-yard bombs up by 30 points. I guess my biggest surprise would be that the starters stayed in the game that long. And McDermott was asked about it after the game, and he said that, we just kind of wanted to put the game away. Okay. I don't really want their talented players taking hits. They didn't really use Cole Beasley. I didn't even really notice that. Did you guys notice that? Cole Beasley had 2 catches for 15 yards, but he only played 9 snaps. I didn't even really notice. You notice Gabriel Davis' reemergence a little bit, 3 catches for big yardage. What did he end up having? I have it right here. Sorry, just 1 second. I want to say it was over 100 yards. It was definitely over 100 yards because for a while there, the Bills had the top 2 receivers on the week. 3 for 105. I'm not sure he actually got the second foot down on that deep one that he bobbled on the sidelines, but there was a pass interference call anyway, so the Jets had no real reason to challenge it anyway. The Bills just totally outclassed the Jets once again. They have their own problems. There's the Mike White thing was fun, like I said. They're playing Joe Flacco this week because Zach Wilson isn't ready apparently, but they need to get back to figuring out if Zach Wilson is the guy, and fast. Bottom line there. Anyway, the Bills improved to 6-3. The big story, I guess, within the AFC there, I suppose, is New England's coming on very strong. They've won 4 in a row. They went from 2-4 to now 6-4. They have had some very impressive wins along the way. They just beat the heck out of Cleveland. They obviously beat the heck out of the Jets as well. I don't mean to downplay this because you can play this with the Bills as well, but and I will. I will play it with the Bills as well. The Patriots' first 3 wins of the season were Jets, Texans, Jets. Again. Then they beat who was it? The Chargers. Then they beat the Panthers. They've always owned Sam Darnold. Whatever. I don't want to downplay, but their strength of victory is, I'm going to exclude Houston in this because Houston has 1 win against Jacksonville. So their strength of victory is 3rd worst in the AFC. Technically 4th worst if you include Houston. But New England's strength of victory is 3rd worst. No, it is 4th worst. Because 2nd worst is Buffalo. And 3rd worst is Indy, the Bills' opponent this weekend. So then the Patriots have the 4th worst strength of victory. So, that's a game you could really play all day. So you try to find other different, other factors. How convincingly maybe are they winning these games? The Bills have a point differential of 145, which is 47 more points than the next closest team, which is New England. They're tied. New England and Arizona. So, at plus 98. The Bills have scored 280, New England scored 275. They're playing better football for sure. There's media love affair again with them. Belichick's back and everything. Maybe. The Bills have 2 games coming up against them, that 3 or 4 weeks ago you didn't think were going to be huge games, and now it's trending towards these are going to be huge games. Especially the Monday Night Football game coming up in a couple of weeks. But it starts with Indy this weekend. There's a couple stories making rounds now. Spencer Brown, I'm going to address that. Spencer Brown to the COVID list. That is super unfortunate because we saw what happened the last time Spencer Brown missed a game, and that was against Jacksonville. Cody Ford went into the lineup. Darrell Williams went back to right tackle. So I think I would be shocked if the Bills went back to the same thing. I think they'll keep the left side, and obviously Mitch Morse relatively the same. It would not shock me if they kept Williams at right guard and tried Ryan Bates, who they acquired via trade like a year or two ago from Philly. Or Tommy Doyle, the rookie at right tackle. That's something they might want to experiment with. My guess would be Bates. He's kind of that swing tackle player. It just seems like Cody Ford might be done as a Bill. I'd be surprised if he went back in the lineup because when he went in there, they couldn't really trust him. But again, this is another thing that I talked about last week. Reacting to the Jacksonville game. You can make plays against pressure. It's more difficult when they're getting pressure with four, sometimes even five guys because you don't have, you only have, the 4 or 5 receivers out there to throw to, and if they're covering them with 7 guys and you're getting so much pressure with their 4 against your 5, you're at a disadvantage because you have 6 players in the backfield, 5 linemen and the quarterback, and they only have 4 coming after you, and you're struggling to block them. So, that's it. They're not blind to it. I mean, how could they be? They saw what happened. It was their offense's worst game of the season. Maybe their worst game. Definitely their worst game in 2 years. I mean, I know they played a game against the Jets last year. We talked about this a couple times. They had a couple ruts on offense last year, but nothing like what they did against Jacksonville. And I don't want to call Indy a slouch. I think this will be Indy's toughest road game in about 6 weeks since they lost to the Ravens in overtime. But they're 5-2 in the last 7 weeks. And their only 2 losses are in overtime to Baltimore and to Tennessee, who are very good teams in the AFC. So I guess I would put the Bills in that class, though. So is Indy ready to jump into that class by beating the Bills on the road? I'm not sure. They certainly have the weapons to do it. Carson Wentz is playing pretty well. I think he's, he hasn't really had a bad game. Since their 3-game losing streak to start the season. I'm looking through his game logs right now. Sorry, give me 1 second. I mean, he's up to 17 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the year. I mean, and 2 of those interceptions came in one game, the loss to Tennessee. So if you're forcing turnovers out of him, you're probably doing a good job. The last couple games, he didn't throw a touchdown against Jacksonville. Jacksonville kind of almost came back in that game. I mean, they just kicked the crap out of the Jets. They had a very nice showing in San Francisco on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago. They only needed 48 offensive plays to beat the Texans 31-3. I mean, Wentz isn't killing them. I guess that's what I can say because Jonathan Taylor is killing everybody. Jonathan Taylor looks like he's going to run away with the rushing title now that Derrick Henry is going to miss the rest of the regular season. Taylor scored a touchdown in 7 straight games. No fluke, probably. This is when their 5-2 streak started. They were 0-3, like I said, to start the season. But Carson Wentz was dealing with some injuries, coming back. The foot injury, then the sprained ankles. He sprained both his ankles, like on the same play or something, or certainly in the same game. And they had a rough showing against Tennessee, but they've been better ever since. They're dealing with some injuries, too. They lost Julian Blackmon for the season. Nice, promising rookie there. But they have strengths at each level of defense. It obviously starts with DeForest Buckner, who didn't practice early on in the week, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be okay to play. He at least tweeted that he's okay to play because his injury report, like abdomen, throat, back, was like, people were kind of laughing at it. So he tweeted, like, hey, I'm laughing at your reactions to this. I'll be good to go. And if you have DeForest Buckner inside on Cody Ford, I mean, Are you really asking for it there? They have a really nice player at the next level in Darius Leonard, a nice corner in Kenny Moore. I still think that there are matchups there for the Bills to exploit in the passing game. I think that this is not too different than the team they played in the playoffs in the wild card round last year. You're just exchanging Carson Wentz with Phillip Rivers. Jonathan Taylor's still there. Michael Pittman is still there. I just talked about Buckner, Leonard, Moore, those guys. And I don't want to say the Bills won convincingly. They certainly didn't win convincingly, but they did win the game. It came down to this Hail Mary that really wasn't a Hail Mary because it landed about about 10 yards short. If it comes down to that again, I'm confident Carson Wentz can make the end zone. That's pretty much that. Anyway, the Bills are favored by 7 points, and I think that this might be kind of more of maybe like a median type of game. I don't think the Bills blow out Indy in the manner in which they've blown some teams out. I don't think, but I'd be surprised if the Colts won. And I don't know why. I'm confident in the Bills. I'm confident in the coaching staff. I'm confident in Josh Allen. So I'm going to pick the Bills to win. I don't think it's going to be another huge addition to the point differential. I'm going to pick the Bills to beat the Colts 26-23. Guys, hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the game if you're going to it. And as always, above all else, go Bills.